Welcome back. In this video, I will continue with ideas about how to open lines and use your bishop to create double attacks. If you haven't seen chapter 1, I would suggest that you first see that because the basic ideas are introduced in that chapter. Over here, white plays the following sequence. Rook captures bishop, queen captures rook, and then bishop e5. Note that the pawn on e4 plays an important role in this fork. Hence, in your own games, you can try to use pawns as outposts for your knights and bishops. Here it is white to move. Since there are not yet any forks for the white bishop, we need to bring the king out to h7. Also, if the black knight on d3 was replaced by a rook, it would certainly be an advantage for white. Now how do you bring the king out to h7? Right now white has no checks available, but rook a8 would have been one if black's d8 rook was off the 8th rank. That means that if black's rook moves off the 8th rank, white has rook a8 check. Black has only one possible move, king h7. And now white's bishop has a fork on e4. All this analysis shows that black's rook is paralyzed. Therefore black's knight is loose. White can just take it. Black has no defense to this. If black becomes a little greedy, he might recapture with his rook, but that's simply a blunder. Let's see what happens. Black has just lost. It's time for him to resign now. This is one of my favorite positions. Pause the video for as long as you like and find the best move for black. The move is bishop e4, forking the h1 square and the rook. Note that the fork here is not between two pieces, but it's between a piece and a very critical square. At the surface, it looks like black loses his queen, but now black can play rook h1 checkmate. So the moral of the story is to always look for a mate first before anything else. Here it is white to play. Right now white's bishop is loose. Also black's pawn on e6 is protected twice, so white cannot capture it with his bishop. See if you can find the best move for white. White plays rook captures bishop. After black responds with queen captures rook, white can take the pawn on e6, forking the queen and the king. Now what if black rejects white's rook sacrifice and decides to take the white bishop with his queen? Well, unfortunately that's game over for black. With the white rook on d7, queen captures g7 is checkmate. Check out this position. It is black to move. The white king seems to be very comfortable in the corner with all his pawns at his service. But that is not the case. Black crashes in with his queen and destroys white's defense. Note that the white pawn on f2 is pinned, so it cannot capture the queen. Hence the king must move to h1. Now black plays a beautiful move. Bishop captures knight, forking the king and the queen. Now white's only response is to recapture with the queen. This is an example to show you that pieces which seem well protected are loose. Look at the black knight on e5. It seems to be protected twice, but it's actually loose. White can just take it, and black has no reply. Let's see what happens if black recaptures the knight. What would black play here? Sometimes when something is too obvious, it is overlooked. Black plays bishop c6, forking white's rook and knight. White cannot protect both. In this puzzle, it is black to play. Black's rook and knight have just been forked by white's bishop, and it's impossible to save both of them. What can black do? Since black has no defensive options, he should counterattack. His bishop has a fork on e5, but that would work only if the white bishop was replaced by another piece. So that's what he should try to do. Black plays rook captures bishop. After white recaptures with his rook, bishop e5 forks the rook and the knight, and white cannot save both. After all this, instead of losing material, black ends up gaining 1 point of material. So the lesson learned here is that whenever you have no solid defensive options against your opponent, try to counterattack.